At my sister's wedding, she grabbed the microphone in front of 200 guests and called me the clearance rack of the dating world. Everyone laughed, including my parents. But one person refused to stay silent. What he did next ended the wedding and changed my life forever. I'm Ava, and this is what happened when someone finally chose me. I'm Ava Carter. I'm 31 years old, an ICU nurse in Dallas, and a single mom to my 5-year-old son, Liam. 3 weeks ago, my younger sister stood at her wedding reception with a microphone in her hand and a smile that could cut through steel. In front of nearly 200 guests, family, friends, strangers in expensive suits, she looked directly at me and said, "This is my big sister, Ava. She's the example my parents always warned me about. Single mom, abandoned by her husband, basically the clearance rack of the dating world." The ballroom erupted. Laughter bounced off the crystal chandeliers, rolled across the marble floors, filled every corner of that overpriced venue. My own mother, clapped her hands together like she'd just heard the punchline of the year. My father bent over his dinner plate, shoulders shaking with silent chuckles, unable to even look at me, Dot, and my son, my beautiful, innocent little boy in his tiny navy suit with the clip-on tie I'd struggled to attach that morning. He looked up at me with eyes so wide and confused and whispered, "Mommy, why are they laughing at you?" I will never forget that moment. The way his voice cracked, the way his small hand tightened around mine, like he was trying to anchor me to the earth. But what I didn't know, what nobody in that ballroom knew, was that someone else had reached their breaking point too. One person who refused to laugh. One person who stood up and flipped my entire life upside down in front of everyone. Before I tell you what he did, ask yourself something. If your own family talked about you that way, would you stay and swallow it for the sake of keeping the peace? Or would you finally walk away? If you've ever felt like the overlooked one, the backup plan, the family punching bag, you're not alone. Like or subscribe if this story hits home, or just listen. Either way, I'm glad you're here. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there, because the time on the clock that night, 9:47 p.m., is burned into my memory forever. To understand how it got that bad, I need to start from the beginning. I grew up in a red brick 2-story house in Plano, Texas. White shutters, 2-car garage, cul-de-sac where kids rode bikes until the streetlights hummed to life. On paper, we were the picture of suburban normal. Inside those walls, there were 2 kinds of daughters, the trophy and the workhorse. My sister Harper, 3 years younger, was the trophy. Honey blonde hair that caught the light just right, green eyes, a cheerleader's smile that made adults melt. Teachers adored her. Neighbors gushed over her. Boys orbited her like she was the sun, and they were desperate for warmth. I was the workhorse. Brown hair, average face, straightest student, permanent babysitter. I didn't cause trouble. I didn't ask for much. I got good grades, cleaned my room, did what I was told. In my family, that translated to, "We don't have to worry about Ava. She'll be fine." Harper got the bigger bedroom with the bay window overlooking the backyard. Custom shelves, my dad built one weekend while listening to classic rock and whistling. I got the smaller room at the end of the hall with mismatched hand-me-down furniture that smelled faintly like mothballs and old carpet. When prom season rolled around, the difference became impossible to ignore. Harper's senior prom dress came from a boutique in Dallas with a French name I couldn't pronounce. My mother took her to 3 different shops, snapped photos in every mirror, texted options to her friends for votes. They settled on a fitted emerald gown that shimmered under the lights and cost more than our monthly grocery bill. "You only get one senior prom," my mother said, actually tearing up as she handed over my dad's credit card. 2 years earlier, When it had been my turn, we'd gone to the sale rack at JCPenney on a Tuesday afternoon. I found a simple blue dress that made me feel pretty for once, not stunning, not remarkable, but pretty. My mom studied me in the fluorescent dressing room mirror, arms crossed, and said, "It's fine. You're more of a simple type anyway. No need to overdo it." I paid for half the dress with babysitting money I'd saved in a showbox under my bed. That was my role. Simple, reliable. Fine. Harper was my beautiful girl, the one who was going places. I was our steady one, the built-in helper, the one asked to pick Harper up from parties, cover for Harper when she snuck out, make sure Harper got home safe when she'd had too much to drink. It's strange how quickly you learn to survive on crumbs of attention and call it love. I met Liam's father, Trevor, when I was 23 and 1 year deep into my ICU job at Parkland Memorial. He was a radiology tech with a tattoo peeking out under his scrubs, an easy grin, and a way of saying my name, Ava, that made me feel like I was the only person in the hallway. He brought me coffee on night shifts. He remembered how I took it to sugars, splash of cream. He texted me after I got off work to ask if I'd made it home safe. Like it mattered to him whether I existed when he wasn't around. "You're so underrated," he told me once, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear in the break room. "Girls like you make the best wives. You actually care." I mistook attention for love. I mistook being chosen for being valued. We got married 8 months later in a small outdoor ceremony behind a mid-range hotel off I-35. White folding chairs, string lights we hung ourselves, a grocery store sheet cake with buttercream roses. It wasn't glamorous, but it felt like ours. My parents came, of course. My mother spent the entire reception complaining about the venue being so casual, while my father talked more to Harper's boyfriend about the Cowboys than he talked to me. During the toasts, my mom kept steering conversations back to Harper. "Both my girls are doing well," she'd say to anyone who would listen. "But Harper, she just got a marketing internship in Austin. That girl is going to be a star." At my wedding, the first cracks with Trevor showed up about 6 months in. "Do you really need to work so many nights? Maybe if you dressed more like Harper, you'd feel better about yourself. You're so sensitive, Ava." I'm joking. Learn to take a joke. By the time I was 7 months pregnant with Liam, he was working late almost every night. One evening, after pulling a brutal double shift, I swung by the hospital to surprise him with his favorite takeout Thai food from the place near our apartment. His car was in the parking lot, but he wasn't in radiology. I found him in the back seat of his Civic with one of the travel nurses, shirts half off, lipstick smudged down his neck, her hand in his hair. The world didn't explode. It just went quiet. We separated before Liam was born. The divorce was final when my son was 15 months old, gummy smile and all. My mother's reaction, a deep sigh. Then I knew this would happen. "You don't know how to keep a man interested. You're nothing like Harper. Men stay with girls like her." My father's reaction, "At least you've got a good job. You'll be fine." Harper sent one text, "That's rough. Maybe try therapy before you date again." And that was that. I moved into a tiny 1-bedroom apartment across town. The carpet was stained, the stove clicked 3 times before lighting, and the walls were thin enough to hear my neighbor's TV through the drywall. But it was all I could afford. I worked nights. Liam stayed at a 24-hour daycare when I couldn't get family to help. My mother believed watching him for free was enabling my bad decisions. My father hated drama and stayed out of it entirely. So I did what I'd always done. I survived. 3 years after my divorce, Harper met Ethan Reynolds. He was everything Trevor wasn't: well-spoken, steady, emotionally available. A corporate attorney who did pro bono work for kids in foster care. The kind of man who ironed his own shirts and showed up when he said he would. They met at a charity gala. Within months, my parents talked about him like he was royalty. He's such a catch. My mother gushed over Sunday brunch. Harper really lucked out. The first time I met Ethan was at dinner at my parents' house. He shook my hand firmly, then immediately crouched down to Liam's level. "Hey, man," he said, voice warm. "I like your dinosaur shoes. What's your favorite dinosaur?" Liam's whole face lit up. "T-Rex, he's the biggest." "Good choice," Ethan said, grinning. No one in my family had ever asked Liam questions like that. During dinner, I noticed Ethan paying attention, really paying attention. He noticed how my mother interrupted me mid-sentence to redirect the conversation back to Harper's latest campaign. He noticed how my father asked Harper detailed questions about her work and asked me only, still working nights. He noticed how I automatically stood to clear plates while Harper stayed seated, scrolling her phone, my mom cooing, "You rest, sweetie. You work so hard." Like I hadn't just worked 12 hours the night before. Later, when I was in the kitchen packing leftovers into Tupperware, Ethan came in carrying a stack of plates. "Can I ask you something?" he said quietly. "Sure." "Do they always treat you like that?" I blinked. "Like what?" "Like you're the built-in help," he said, setting the plates down gently. "Like you're here to support the show, not be part of it." I laughed it off, the way I always did. That's just our dynamic. Harper's the star. I'm the behind-the-scenes girl. He didn't smile. "You're a good mom," he said instead. "It's obvious. Liam's lucky to have you in his corner." My throat tightened. My own parents had never said anything like that to me. I thought about that sentence for weeks afterward, while I hung meds in the ICU. While I drove home at sunrise, while I watched Liam sleep with his little fist curled by his cheek. "You're a good mom." I didn't know it then, but Ethan seeing me, really seeing me, was the beginning of everything falling apart. The wedding invitation arrived in a thick ivory envelope with gold lettering, so raised it felt like Braille under my fingertips. Harper Elise Carter and Ethan James Reynolds request the pleasure of your company. The venue, a rooftop ballroom at a luxury hotel in downtown Dallas. Live band, open bar. A flower budget that made my eyes water when my mother casually mentioned it on the phone. "Do you know how much they're spending per guest?" she said, voice dripping with pride. "This is the kind of wedding people talk about for years." Ava. She'd never said that about mine. 2 weeks before the wedding, Harper called to go over logistics. "First, dress code," she said briskly. "The photos are going to be everywhere, so wear something neutral. Beige, pale pink, soft blue. Nothing bold. Definitely not red. It pulls focus." I glanced at the deep green dress I'd saved up for, hanging in my closet. "Okay," I said. "I'll find something else." "Great. And do you have to bring Liam?" My jaw clenched. "He's my son, Harper." "Yes, I'm bringing him." She sighed dramatically. It's going to be a long day. Kids get fussy. I don't want a tantrum during the vows." "Liam doesn't throw tantrums," I said evenly. "Still, the planner's putting you at a table near the back so you can slip out if he acts up." "The back?" "Of course." On the morning of the wedding, my mother called with final instructions. "You and Liam are at table 18 near the service entrance," she said. "Don't complain. This is Harper's day. We can't have distractions." That's what my child was to her. A distraction. I should have started connecting the dots then. But when you've spent your whole life being background noise, you stop expecting to be anything else. The hotel ballroom was breathtaking. Floor-to-ceiling windows framing the Dallas skyline, candles floating in glass cylinders, flowers cascading from every surface. It looked like a Pinterest Board brought to life with an unlimited budget. I wore a soft blush dress I'd found on sale at Nordstrom Rack. Simple. Enough to meet Harper's requirements. Liam wore his little navy suit, the one I'd found at Target, and altered myself because the sleeves were too long. He clutched my hand as we stepped off the elevator, eyes wide. "Mommy, it's like a castle," he whispered. "Sure is, baby," I said, my chest aching. A very expensive castle. Table 18 was tucked in the far corner, partially hidden behind a marble pillar, right by the swinging doors to the kitchen. I could hear servers calling out orders, the clatter of dishes being stacked. No one from my immediate family came over to say hello. My parents worked the room near the front, shaking hands, posing for photos, introducing themselves as the bride's parents. Harper floated through in a fitted lace gown that probably cost more than my car, glowing under the warm lighting. On her way to the head table, she paused at ours. "You made it," she said, air kissing my cheek without actually touching me. Her eyes skimmed my dress. "Good. You kept it simple." "Hi, Liam." She barely glanced at him. "Remember what I said about keeping him quiet, okay?" Then she was gone, trailing perfume and entitlement. At one point during cocktail hour, I saw my mother's phone on the bar light up with a notification from the family group chat, the one I wasn't in. The preview read, "Remember the lines. Tonight needs to land." I told myself it was about wedding vows or a slideshow. Anything but what it really was. The ceremony was picture perfect. Harper cried delicately. Ethan looked at her like she hung the moon. The officiant talked about building a family rooted in respect and love. I stood in the back holding Liam because there weren't enough seats up front, and tried to ignore the knot tightening in my chest. During family photos, the photographer called for immediate family. I stepped forward automatically. My mother physically blocked my path. "Just parents and bridal party for this set," she said lightly. "I'm her sister," I said. "We'll get fun shots of you later," she replied, already turning away. "Let's not crowd the frame." Liam tugged my hand. "Why can't we be in the picture?" "We'll take our own later," I said, forcing a smile. "Just you and me." I snapped a photo of him on my phone. My beautiful boy in his too big suit hand swallowed the ache. By the time dinner was served, I was running on fumes and willpower. I noticed one of Ethan's friends, Marcus, setting up his phone on a small tripod near the dance floor. Camera angled at the stage. "Live streaming for cousins on the West Coast," he told our table. "They're watching everything." The DJ eventually tapped the microphone. The clinking of silverware died down. "Ladies and gentlemen," he boomed, "please welcome our beautiful bride, Harper, who'd like to say a few words." Applause rippled through the room. Whistles. Cheers. Harper stood. Note cards folded in one manicured hand, champagne glass in the other. She smiled like she was born for this moment. "Hi, everyone," she began. "Thank you so much for being here to celebrate us. This is the happiest day of my life." She thanked Ethan, his parents, her parents, the vendors, the bridal party. People laughed at the little jokes, dabbed their eyes at the sentimental parts. "And I want to talk about family for a second," she said, her tone shifting subtly. "Because family teaches us who we want to be and who we don't want to be." Her eyes scanned the room and landed directly on me. My stomach dropped. "My big sister, Ava, is here tonight," Harper said brightly. "Ava, stand up so everyone can see you." Every head in the ballroom turned toward table 18. I stood because not standing would have made it worse. Liam's small hand tightened in mine, confused. "There she is," Harper said, voice dripping with false warmth. "My older sister, the original Carter girl, the one who did everything first so I could see what not to do." Polite laughter scattered through the crowd. See, Ava married young. Harper continued, pacing now, gaining momentum. Had a baby young. Got divorced young. She's like the beta version of me, and I'm the update. The laughter grew louder. She's a single mom? Harper said, drawing out the words like a punchline. Her man walked out and left her with the bills and the kid. You know those clearance racks at Target, where the return stuff goes? That's Ava's dating life now. The room erupted. I heard a whistle from somewhere near the front. Someone actually clapped. My face burned. My ears roared with white noise. From the head table, my mother's voice rang out, clear and cruel. She's used goods, but we still love her. The laughter doubled. People were wiping tears from their eyes. My father covered his mouth. Shoulders shaking. Liam looked up at me, eyes shiny with confusion and hurt. Mommy, he whispered, voice breaking. Why are they laughing at you? I couldn't speak. Couldn't move. Harper flipped to another note card. She wasn't done. But honestly, she said, I have to thank you, Ava. You showed me exactly what not to do. Don't rush into things. Don't pick losers. Don't end up in a tiny apartment with a screaming kid and overdue bills. So really, she deserves a toast. She raised her glass high to Ava, she said, smiling straight at me. My walking warning label. Glasses lifted across the ballroom. Some people hesitated. Most did in single quotes. Something inside me cracked clean in half. Before I could decide whether to sit down or run for the exit, a chair scraped loudly from the head table. Ethan stood up. He didn't look amused. He didn't look confused. He looked furious. He walked toward the stage, each footstep echoing in the sudden, thick silence. Harper's smile faltered. Babe, she laughed nervously into the mic. What are you doing? You're ruining my flow. He stepped onto the stage and took the microphone out of her hand with careful, controlled movements. Ethan, my mother hissed from her seat. Sit down. He ignored her completely. I'm sorry to interrupt, he said, voice tight but perfectly clear. But I need to say something. You could have heard a fork drop. I've spent 2 years watching how this family treats Ava, he said. 2 years of dinners where she was talked over. Holidays where she did all the work and got none of the credit. Comments about her divorce and her son that were passed off as jokes. He looked out at the crowd, then directly at me. And tonight, I watched a 5-year-old boy hear his mom called clearance and used goods by his own family. While a room full of adults laughed, he pointed toward our table. Liam is 5 years old, he said. He doesn't understand grown-up excuses. He just knows everybody laughed at his mom, and no one protected her. My mother shot to her feet, face red. This is ridiculous, she snapped. You're blowing a joke out of proportion. It wasn't a joke, Ethan said calmly. He held up Harper's crumpled note cards. You planned it. You wrote it down. You practiced it. Harper's mascara started streaking down her cheeks. Ethan, you're embarrassing me, she said, grabbing at his arm. We'll talk about this later. Put the mic down. He took a step back. No, he said quietly. We won't talk about it later. Because I'm not marrying into a family that thinks this is entertainment. A collective gasp rippled through 200 guests. I can't marry someone who would humiliate her own sister for applause, he continued. I can't build a life with people who call cruelty our family's sense of humor. He set the microphone carefully on the edge of the stage. The bar's paid for. He said to the guests, the band is here for another 3 hours. Please enjoy your night, but there will be no wedding. Then he walked off the stage and headed straight for the exit. For 3 full seconds, nobody moved. Then the room exploded into whispers, gasps, frantic conversations. My mother spun toward me, eyes blazing with rage. What did you say to him? She shouted across the ballroom. What did you tell him about us? Nothing, I said, my voice shaking but steady. He has eyes, Mom. You've always been jealous of Harper, she screamed, mascara starting to run. You couldn't stand to see her happy. You ruined her life. Harper sobbed at the head table, face in her hands. You did this, she choked out. You poisoned him against me. I felt the story starting to twist the way it always did. Something horrible happened, and somehow I was being rewritten as the villain. I looked down at Liam. His little fists were pressed against his chest, cheeks blotchy, mouth trembling. Do you want to go home, baby? I asked softly. He nodded, tears spilling over. Please, I stood up. My legs were steady now. I didn't ruin anything. I said loud enough for my mother to hear. I didn't say a word to Ethan. He watched you treat me like nothing for 2 years and chose not to sign up for the rest of his life, you liar, she hissed. You ungrateful. I picked up my purse, helped Liam into his little jacket, and started the longest 40-foot walk of my life. From table 18 to the exit, people stared. Some looked ashamed. Some looked curious. No one stopped me. Near the doors, Ethan was waiting. Ava, he said quietly. I'm sorry. I should have said something sooner. Don't be sorry, I said, shifting Liam on my hip. You did what nobody else in my family has ever done. You stood up. He reached into his wallet and pulled out a business card. If Trevor ever gives you trouble with custody or support, call me, he said. No charge. I mean it. That kid deserves someone fighting for him. I took the card and slipped it into my purse. Thank you, I said, voice cracking, for seeing us. Then I walked out of that hotel, into the warm Dallas night, and for the first time in 31 years. Away from my family without looking back. By the time I had Liam bathed, fed pancakes for dinner because I couldn't summon the energy for anything else, and tucked into bed, my phone looked like it was about to explode. 30 to missed calls. Mom, you have destroyed this family. Call me now. Mom. Harper is in pieces. Ethan left. This is on you. Harper. You are dead to me. Dad. Your mother is hysterical. You need to apologize. I set the phone face down on my nightstand and stared at the ceiling. An hour later, a text came from an unknown number. Unknown. Hey Ava, it's Aunt Maria. I saw the live stream Marcus posted before he took it down. I am so sorry. I knew your mom favored Harper, but I didn't know it was this bad. You didn't deserve that. I'm here if you want to talk. I read it 3 times. It was the first time in my entire life someone in my family said out loud, "This is wrong. This isn't your fault." I cried then, quietly, in the dark, while Liam snored softly down the hall. Not because my family was falling apart, but because for the first time, someone had actually seen me. The next morning, proof arrived. Marcus's girlfriend who followed me on Instagram sent me screenshots from a private family group chat titled Carter Clan, minus Ava. Double quotes 2 weeks before the wedding. Harper, working on my speech. I'm going to roast Ava so hard she might finally get her life together. Mom, just don't go too far. Honey, we don't want people thinking we're cruel. Harper, please. Everyone already knows she's pathetic. Shows up to everything with that kid like she wants a pity trophy. Mom, you're right. She made her choices. Might as well make people laugh. Dad, just keep my name out of it. Harper, relax. Dad, she won't say anything back. She never does. I stared at those messages until the words blurred. They hadn't gotten carried away in the moment. They planned it. My humiliation was entertainment they workshopped in a group chat. I sat at my little kitchen table, plastic edges still peeling at the corners, and realized there was nothing left to fix. I opened the Notes app on my phone and typed 2 words. No contact. Not a threat. Not a performance. Just a plan. I blocked my mother's number, then Harper's, then my father's. I expected guilt. I expected second guessing instead. I felt relief. If you've ever had to set a boundary with someone you love, even when it made you feel sick, type boundaries in the comments so I know I'm not alone. 3 days later, my parents showed up at my apartment unannounced. I was juggling grocery bags and Liam when I saw them waiting at the top of the stairs, dressed like they'd accidentally wandered into the wrong part of town. Ava, my mother snapped. You blocked us. Yes, I said. I did. We need to talk. Mommy, why is Grandma mad? Liam whispered, pressing against my leg. My neighbor, Mrs. Jenkins, cracked her door open. Everything okay, honey? Can Liam watch TV with you for a few minutes? I asked. I'll bring him his tablet. Of course, she said warmly. Come on, sweetheart. Once he was inside and the door clicked shut, I turned back to my parents. You ruined your sister's life, my mother started, eyes blazing. The venue still wants full payment. The vendors won't refund. Ethan's family is furious. Do you even understand how much money you cost us? I laughed once, a sharp, bitter sound that surprised even me. You really think this is about money? You filled Ethan's head with nonsense about us, she went on. You've always been jealous. You couldn't stand that your sister was finally getting her moment. I didn't say anything to Ethan. I said evenly. He watched you treat me like dirt for 2 years and decided he didn't want to marry into it. That's not true, she snapped. I saw the group chat, Mom, I said. I know you helped write that speech. I know you called my life embarrassing. I know Dad knew and stayed quiet. My mother's face went pale. My father stared at a spot on the floor like it held answers. Harper is in therapy, my mother said, softening her voice in that manipulative way she does. She's devastated. She can't eat. She cries every night. This is killing her. Good, I said quietly. Maybe she'll finally feel something besides entitlement. How dare you, she whispered. I took a breath. My hands trembled, but my voice didn't. I love you, I said. I always have. I spent my whole life twisting myself into whatever shape you wanted, hoping that one day you'd look at me the way you look at Harper. Her mouth tightened into a thin line. But I will not let my son grow up thinking this is what love looks like, I continued. I won't let him think it's normal for his family to tear his mom down and then blame her for bleeding. You can't just cut off your family, she said, eyes filling with angry tears. We're your blood. Family is supposed to feel like home, I said. You never have. I took a step back toward my door. Please leave, I said. Don't come back without being invited. You'll regret this when I'm gone, she spat. You'll wish you'd been a better daughter. Maybe, I said, but I'd regret more raising Liam to think this is okay. Right on cue. Mrs. Jenkins's door opened and Liam ran out, cookie crumbs on his face. Mommy, are we done? He asked. Yeah, baby, I said. We're done. My mother opened her arms automatically. Liam, come give Grandma a hug. I stepped between them. No, I said. The hallway went dead quiet. He's my grandson, she said, shocked. And my son, I replied. And I'm responsible for his emotional safety. Right now, that means distance. My father finally spoke, voice weak. Ava, your mother is upset. Maybe we can all calm down. I am calm, I said. For the first time in a long time, I took Liam's hand, walked into our apartment, and locked the door. The click of the deadbolt sounded like a line being drawn in permanent ink. The video of the wedding made its rounds through extended family faster than my mother could spin a new story. Some relatives called what happened disgusting. Others said I was overreacting and should remember that family is family. I stopped trying to manage anyone's opinion. Instead, I poured my energy into my own life for the first time in 3 decades. I started therapy with a woman named Dr. Patel, who calmly explained that I'd spent my entire childhood and adulthood as the family scapegoat. You were the designated problem, she said during our 3rd session. That's why nothing you did was ever enough. You could have been perfect, and they still would have found fault. That says everything about them and nothing about you. I got promoted to charge nurse on night shift. My manager told me, "You're steady in a crisis and your patients rave about you. You're exactly who we need in leadership." I sat in my car afterward and cried from sheer relief that someone saw my value. Without tearing me down, first. Liam started kindergarten. He made a best friend named Noah. His teacher sent a note home that said, "Liam is kind, empathetic, and always looks out for the kids who are shy or nervous. You're raising a wonderful human." Continue 10:06 p.m. I taped it to the fridge next to his dinosaur drawing. I started seeing someone, Jake, a respiratory therapist from the hospital who texted good morning memes, asked about my day, and liked building Lego sets with Liam on the living room floor. Every time kindness showed up in my life, a little part of me wanted to flinch. Dr. Patel reminded me, "You're not living on crumbs anymore. This is what normal looks like." My parents still try every few months. A birthday card with money for Liam, a voicemail about how life is short, a message relayed through Maria that my mother misses her grandson. Maybe one day I'll be willing to renegotiate those terms. Maybe I won't. Healing isn't a straight line, and forgiveness is not the same as access. 8 months after the wedding, Liam brought home a family tree assignment from school. Most kids had branches full of grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins stretching across construction paper. Liam's drawing had to stick figures, one tall, one small. He'd written me over the little one and Mom over the big one in wobbly letters. "That's our family," he said proudly, holding it up. "Just us. Do you like our family?" I asked carefully. He looked at me like I'd asked if he liked recess. "It's the best," he said. I hung it on the fridge with a magnet shaped like a dinosaur. That's when it really hit me. Walking away from my parents wasn't just about protecting myself. It was about giving my son a different blueprint. He will grow up knowing that love doesn't sound like public humiliation. That jokes that leave you in tears aren't jokes. That you're allowed to step away from anyone, yes. Even your mother who keeps cutting you and calling it love. So if you're listening to this and thinking about your own family, your own version of table 18 in the corner, here's what I want you to take away. You don't owe lifelong access to people who make you feel small. You don't have to stay where you are the punchline. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is quietly pick up your child, your keys, your dignity, and walk out. Not dramatically. Not VENGFULLY. Just out. Thank you for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss future stories about healing from toxic families and learning to believe you deserve better. And if you're comfortable, tell me in the comments, have you ever had to let go of someone you loved for the sake of your peace? You're not alone. Not anymore. If it helped you even a little, please hit the like button, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear that they're not alone. I'll see you in the next story.